Alright, so I'm at Chickies Rock Park in Lancaster County, right along the Susquehanna River, just north of Columbia. I've chosen this location for my introduction to my Civil War series. I'll talk about that later. But this is called a Breezy Point Overlook. There's a cool view of the Susquehanna River over here, so let's go check that out first. Yeah, so out there's the river, but they even have a sign here for Civil War trails and how there's a lot of iron industry down here. I talk about that later in the video too, I think. The iron industry helped the north wind. So yeah, we got a cool view of the Susquehanna down here. Alright, yeah, neat little spot. Sometimes they have weddings up here and stuff, but I'm gonna head up. There's a little trail here that heads up closer to where Columbia is, overlooking the city, and the bridge is up there. So that's where I'm gonna head. It's gonna be a little noisy up there, so hopefully you can hear everything I have to say up there. And also too, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about names and troop movements and stuff, just the general gist of it. And you can look up the rest if you want on your own about the stuff I'm going to say when I'm here. Interesting place though, for if you're a Civil War historian, to think of what could have happened here if things had gone differently. Yeah, so I was just making my way along the trail here and found some cool wildflowers down here. We'll take a look at quick. A whole bunch of them here. These are called Dutchman's breeches. They almost look like teeth, but I guess they're supposed to represent upside down pants, breeches. A whole bunch of them here. They're actually poisonous too, especially to livestock. But anyway, we're going to continue along the trail here to Grubb Hill. The May apples are up as well. That means I should be out hunting for morels. Maybe later this week. It's just loaded with flowers out here this morning. These are Spring Beauty. You can actually eat these. They have little tubers that are edible. Taste like potatoes. Yeah, you can probably hear the traffic down there. We're getting close to that bridge, but I know since we talk about the Civil War and keep finding wildflowers, but that's the way it is. We'll talk about it soon enough. All right, so here we are. A bit noisy and not the most beautiful spot, but this is Grubb Hill. I don't know if it's called that anymore, but back in the 1800s, that's what it was referred to as. This whole area down by the river, and it gets that name because of the Grubb family. They're big in the iron making industry. In fact, down there is an old iron furnace, the St. Charles iron furnace, and I was there in an earlier video if you want to check that out. So down here is Route 30. There's two bridges going across the Susquehanna River now. During the Civil War, there's just one, but we'll talk about that. And of course, just down here is the town of Columbia. So I've chosen this spot for the introduction to my Civil War episodes, and the whole purpose of these is just to point out spots of local interest about the Civil War in the area. Because whenever you talk about the Civil War in Pennsylvania, it's almost always, Gettysburg. Not that Gettysburg wasn't important, obviously it was. It was a pivotal point during the Civil War. But there's a lot of other stuff that happened too in Pennsylvania that's not always well known. I come across these places in my wanderings, so I thought I'd just make some videos about those places as well. So down across the river, over there is Wrightsville. And if you look, there's one bridge there, but down below it, you can see a series of old pillars. That was the old Columbia-Wrightsville covered bridge. And back over there, in that town of Wrightsville, that's the farthest east that the Confederate Army made it, in the campaign of 1863. So that makes this place kind of significant. And they were hoping to cross the river here on that covered bridge, but it got burned down before they could do that. But we'll talk about that in another video when I talk more about the bridge. But one thing that, when I was studying about this, one thing that was interesting was, that I learned was that they were hoping, if they could, to capture the state capital here, Harrisburg, just up north. When they first crossed into Pennsylvania on June 15th, of course, the Battle of Gettysburg was July 1st to the 3rd. One division was headed across this way, and two more headed up to try and take Harrisburg from the north. The ones that crossed here were going to come across the river, take Lancaster, and go and meet the other ones up towards Harrisburg, like kind of like a pincer action, and capture Harrisburg if they could. And if they had done that, that would have changed the course of the war dramatically, probably. So this is kind of a interesting spot, strategic spot. So on the night of, was it June 28th, 1863, that's a Sunday night, there were artillery pieces up here on Grubb Hill looking down across the river. Well, not across the river, but just down there where the old bridge would have come across. And they were up here, on the off chance that the Confederates made it across the bridge, and they'd be up here to fire down on them if they could. So that's what Grubb Hill was for during that time. Well, one of the things it was for. Alright, so like I was saying, they were hoping to capture the state capital, Harrisburg, but obviously never happened. I'm here in a quieter area, kind of noisy over there on the hill. But yeah, the reason they never pushed further is because by that point, Lee's army had encountered the Union Army at Gettysburg, and Lee called all those advanced troops back to Gettysburg to help him out at the main battle. So history could have been very different, if the Union troops hadn't arrived, when they did, or if they were like a week later, got slowed down by rain or something. It's interesting to think of what could have happened in that time. So, all right, so I am back from being at Grubb Hill, and I'm back here at the Breezy Point Overlook. It's just a really neat spot here. But that right at the end of the fence here, that's the trail I took to get to that noisy spot I walked to, overlooking where Grubb Hill was. Anyway, I hope you could hear what I said in that video there. It was pretty noisy there, but I probably should have just talked while I was here. But like I said, there's not much there to see, but it's just an interesting spot, considering, like I said, that was, as far east as the Confederate Army was able to advance, during the Gettysburg campaign. So it's just an interesting spot how I think they made it a couple hundred feet across that bridge before the Union forces burned it down. Yep, things would have been a lot different if they had made it across, probably. Alright, so this is the end of this just introduction to this episodes that I'm going to make for the Civil War. Like I said, there'll be different episodes at different places, local interests, some more important than others, but they're all stuff that might be in your backyard almost. All these interesting things about the Civil War that sometimes aren't real well known about anymore. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, and there'll be more places. I think there's actually 2 more places right in this area I'm going to stop at. I'm going to make a video about the bridge down there too. Try and get closer to where the old bridge piers were. Alright, I'll see you around. Alright, so I'm back home in the truck here. I just wanted to show you a few books, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, some of the things that happened in Pennsylvania during the Civil War. Let me show you a few good books that I have that have given me a lot of information. First one is called The Confederate Approach on Harrisburg, and as the title says, it talks about, that campaign in the northern part I was talking a little bit about. Another one which talks more about the southern area, Flames Beyond Gettysburg. There's a drawing of the Columbia-Riceville covered bridge. And it talks more about, their campaign in York and Wrightsville and stuff like that. And here's another one, Last Road North. This is more of a tourist guide, but it's more of a condensed version of the other 2 books. But they're all 3 good books. So if you want some information about some of the things that I'm talking about in this video and some of my other videos on the Civil War, that's where I'm getting a lot of my information, places to stop at.